What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab Show. College football week one, some good games, some cupcake games, and we look at like teams like Alabama. They play a bunch of nobodies. That's one thing I don't like about college football is they open up against these big time schools and they're playing these cupcake teams, and it's just like it's not really that entertaining. But overall, what really took over the college week in week one was definitely Deion Sanders, aka Coach Deion Sanders, coaching his way to victory in Colorado, beating TCU, and they were heavy underdogs this game. I just think Coach Primetime, he knows what he's doing. He's got the swagger, he's got the mojo, and I think right now Colorado is on the map. It would be insane if Colorado does end up making the college football playoff, which I don't think they will. I think it's a little bit of a long shot. But overall, what Coach Deion Primetime has doing right now in Colorado is special. His son is the quarterback. He's number two, just like Prime used to be. And I think, he threw for 4 touchdowns, over 500 yards. That is crazy, dude. What Colorado did was putting TCU on blast. TCU is the former runner-up champion. They got killed by Georgia. And I even said last year TCU had no business playing against Georgia. I mean, Alabama had a better shot with 2 losses than a trash TCU with 1 loss. I mean, it is what it is. But, Dylan Edwards for Colorado, he's the first FBS freshman over the past 20 seasons with 3 receiving touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown in his college debut, which is insane. So shout out to Dylan Edwards. Crazy, right? Crazy stat. I just think Colorado right now, they are a team where people are like, hey, they are legit. They can compete against any SEC team. They can compete against anybody in the country because of Coach Prime. That's why. I just think he brought in, I don't even know how many players. Some people said like 80 players. I don't know. I don't know how many players he brought over, but he brought some talent. And that's what he brought. And look, he's on his way. Right now, he's 1-0, which is crazy because typically Colorado football is not really known to be on the map. It's just not, dude. They're not like, oh, Colorado's a great football program. No, it's never really been in the spotlight like that. So since Primetime showed up, it's been prime time. It really has. So shout out to Colorado and Coach Deion Sanders. Get in his first year in Colorado. Amazing. So shout out to Coach Prime. What a time. And then my Fighting Irish, Notre Dame, played another cupcake school team. Look, that just is what it is. Even though Notre Dame's football schedule is tough, you got USC, even though they don't have really a good defense, and Ohio State, which they look really bad this week against IU at Bloomington, which is kind of crazy, right? I thought, Ohio State would win like 49-10, and it was only 23-3. That tells me Ohio State is vulnerable. That tells me Notre Dame should beat Ohio State in a couple weeks. At home in South Bend, there's no excuse. I think Notre Dame right now, they're on their way to say, hey, they're set up to play Clemson in Clemson. That's really their last test here. So I think for Notre Dame, if they run out the schedule, absolutely, they deserve to be in the playoff. It doesn't matter if they're a 3rd or 4th seed. As long as they're in a college football playoff and Notre Dame is winning games with Coach Marcus Freeman, the sky's the limit for Notre Dame. I'm telling you, I just think the biggest change for me for Notre Dame is not just their quarterback playing Sam Hartman, is their defense. They're flying around. They're tackling. They're making big plays. They're being, tackling on the perimeter. That's the key thing for Notre Dame. In the past, they haven't been too great at tackling one-on-one on the perimeter, running fast guys down. That's what they're doing this year. So I love what Notre Dame's doing. And obviously, Sam Hartman, I mean, dude, he's legit. 6 touchdowns in only 2 games in last year. Obviously, he's a 6-year senior, which a lot of people are giving him crap. He's like 24, 25. But at the end of the day, dude, I'm telling you, Sam Hartman is a leader, and he'll lead Notre Dame to really, the promised land. It's been since 1988, dude. That's been too long for Notre Dame to be without a championship. So I think what Sam Hartman and Coach Freeman have going on in a great running game with Estime, who has 2 touchdowns in 2 games, over 200 yards rushing. Even though he did have a fumble in the Navy, they benched him for discipline. But at the end of the day, right now, Notre Dame on offensively, they can score on anybody. They got the run game to do it, and I think when Ohio State comes to play Notre Dame, Notre Dame better be ready and to put up some big numbers. And I think Sam Hartman's going to have a Heisman-like year this year. His last year in college, we will see him playing on Sundays, whether that's backup or a starter. But Sam Hartman is legit. Coach Freeman and Notre Dame, they're on a roll, even though their first couple games are cupcake teams. I mean, seriously, Tennessee State, Navy, not really that good. Central Michigan, it's just some cupcake teams. And a lot of people play them, not just Notre Dame. You know, we're talking about Alabamas. We're talking about the Georgias. Like, they play some cupcake teams, dude. And it's always been like that in college football, and I'm trying to understand why. Why is it always week one where we get these powerhouse schools, you know, and they play these cupcake teams? We want to see two good teams like tonight, LSU and Florida State. We want to see two big program teams playing against each other in week one in college football. I'm tired of this, you know, all the cupcake teams, dude. It just sucks, man. I think that's hurting college football in a way, even though college football is going in a different direction. You know, you got the NIL deals. You got a lot of different teams going to different conferences now, even though I do think Notre Dame should join the ACC or the SEC. That's what they should do in the future, and I hope Coach Marcus Freeman understands that, hey, you know, to better our program, we got to play against better competition all around, and that starts at the ACC or the SEC. Obviously, the SEC is the best conference in college football. I wouldn't be mad if Notre Dame's like, hey, let's do it. Let's go to the SEC and let's handle it right now. Let's play against the top-notch competition week in and week out. I think that's what Notre Dame should eventually do. But right now, the College Football Committee, they're going to stay with the 14 playoff, which I think is the right call right now till a lot of the teams settle down in the Big 10 and the Big 12 in the SEC, ACC. I just think, you know, they need to figure that stuff out. The programs need to figure that out. So the 14 playoff is fine for me for now, even though I do think in the future in college football, I do see a 10-game, you know, playoff. Why not? Top 10 teams get in, you know, give a shot to the 10th seed. First, number one seed gets a bye. Just mix it up. You know, make the underdog at least have a better shot instead of trying to getting in that 4th seed. I mean, we saw how it worked out last year with TCU getting pummeled by Georgia. It was embarrassing. It really was, but I think a top 10 college football playoff would be great. Eventually, down the road, I could see that happening. And then we got USC. They're 2-0 in their first 2 games. Caleb Williams, 9 touchdowns in 2 games. He's going to be a Heisman candidate for sure. Wouldn't be surprised if he does win Heisman. I mean, last year, Caleb Williams, he was too young. He could have really went to the NFL and got drafted in the NFL, which is kind of crazy, right? But he's at SC right now. I think he'll be a first-rounder. But looking at USC, they have no defense. And it's been like that since Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart left USC. They haven't really had a solid defense since, dude. And that's exploitable. And I think for Notre Dame, when USC comes to play Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame should run right through that defense. Not a problem. You know, just stop Caleb Williams at all costs. And I just think USC has no defense. And they're not going to win a national championship. USC will not be in the college football playoff strictly because they have no good defense. That's it. Just sum it up right there. But USC 2-0 in the first 2 games. Shout out to SC. And then we got Utah beating Florida, which is crazy, right? Back in the day when Florida was good with Tim Tebow, back through in like 2006 to 2009, 2010 time, Florida was legit. And watching the Swamp Gators on Netflix is definitely a must show you guys should watch on Netflix. I'm telling you, Tim Tebow, he's that it factor. He's the ultimate leader. Faith of God. I love Tim Tebow, and what he did at Florida was amazing, but right now it's just not the same. You know, we look at Florida Gators now and just be like, it's a head scratcher right now. You know, Graham Mertz, their starting quarterback, who wore number 15 like Tim Tebow, had 1 touchdown and 1 pick, 333 yards passing. That's not enough. That's not Tim Tebow-like. I just think, you know, if this was, you know, Tim Tebow back in the day in 07 and they played in Utah, they would run right through Utah. Even though Coach Urban Meyer came from Utah, which is crazy, right? But Utah beating Florida, an SEC team, I'm looking at Florida Gators and just thinking, man, when are they going to be back on the map? When are they going to be the real Florida Gators that we're used to seeing, who really should have won 3 championships in 4 years when Tebow was there? That's crazy, right? But, you know, shout out to Utah, man, getting the dub at home. What a win for Utah. And then we got the Michigan Wolverines over East Carolina, another cupcake school team. Michigan plays. Really, we look at the Big Ten and think, well, Michigan and Ohio State and maybe Penn State, that's it. And a lot of those Big Ten team schools, the rest of them, would not be able to compete against, the top level SEC teams. That's just the reality of it. And we're looking at college football, and it's becoming more lopsided that way. More teams are going to bigger schools. They're not going to go to, a school like, per se, Iowa or out of random Illinois. They're just not going to those type of schools. They're not going to go to the Big Ten typically unless you're at Ohio State or Michigan. But Michigan got the job done. J.J. McCarthy, 280 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. Blake Corum, their starting running back, 73 yards rushing and a touchdown. It's his senior year. Blake will definitely be playing on the weekends eventually, dude. He'll be playing in the NFL. Just a matter of time when that's going to be. But I'm looking at Blake Corum and realizing, hey, this guy's an NFL talent running back. That's what Michigan can do. But Coach Harbaugh serving that 3-game suspension is not really a good look for Michigan. And I think at the end of the year, Michigan's probably going to lose to Ohio State or lose to another team. I just don't see Michigan really going to the college football playoff again. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to lose to a trash TCU team, dude? Like, it's not right. And then they lost to Georgia the year before. So I'm looking at Michigan and saying, yeah, you guys got to the college football playoff, but can you get over the hump? Can you beat the top level Georgia or Alabama teams? That's the question, dude. That's the question in college football in general. Who can beat Georgia and Alabama? That's it. That's what it comes down to. Who can beat them? So it's definitely a long shot, but hats off to Michigan beating another trash team. And then we got Tennessee beating Virginia. Tennessee beating Virginia 49-13, a blowout. Another really cupcake school as well. Joe Milton, he had 201 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Look, I'm looking at Joe Milton the second and realizing, hey, this guy's a gamer. He likes to run. He can do different things. So Tennessee is definitely a huge threat in the SEC. Then you got Jalen Wright, 115 yards rushing. Dylan Sampson, 4 touchdowns. So Tennessee snapped off against Virginia, which they should have. Tennessee playing against the top level competition. So shout out to Tennessee getting the dub. Then we got Oklahoma beating Arkansas State 73-0. Another cupcake school team, for Oklahoma. And I'm looking at Oklahoma and thinking, man, they haven't been good in a while either. Yes, they're a big-time program. Yes, they're huge in football. But recently, it's just like Oklahoma hasn't been anywhere being found. And I understand they're playing some good teams, but like this, Arkansas State, like, how are you guys getting better playing against these type of teams? The only way you're going to get better is playing against better competition, right? Basic, right? So I'm looking at Oklahoma and thinking, man, beef up your schedule. That's what they should do. So big win by Oklahoma. Iowa beats Utah State. Cade McNamara, who came from Michigan, 191 yards passing and 2 touchdowns for Iowa. Caleb Johnson, 63 yards rushing and a touchdown. So Iowa won. Really close game, but like I said, Iowa's not going to be the team to make a college football playoff this year. They're just not, but a big win for Iowa. Ole Miss beating Mercer. Mercer, I heard of them because of college basketball, but dude, really? Like, I don't understand Ole Miss playing against this team 73-7, dude. Like, are they D2 or D3? Which one is it, dude? Like, that is crazy. So, hats off to Ole Miss. Dawson Dart, 4 touchdowns, 334 yards passing. Trey Harris, 133 yards receiving with 4 touchdowns off 6 receptions. I mean, Trey Harris snapped off. Shout out to Ole Miss. They're definitely a threat in the SEC. Then we had Oregon killing Portland State, another D2 school that another powerhouse, Oregon team is playing against. Portland State, really, dude? Are they even D1? Like 81-7. That is ridiculous, dude. 81-7. Bo Nix, he's a transfer from Auburn. He had 3 touchdowns, 287 yards passing. Bucky Irving, 4 carries, 119 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Troy Franklin, over 100 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. It was all Oregon. But like I said, you're playing against Portland State, dude. Like, seriously. Like, this is embarrassing. Like, I don't understand. Powerhouse schools should play powerhouse teams week in and week out. Make it like the NFL. Every game is going to be a challenge. Even the worst team in the NFL could win on any given Sunday. So I'm looking at college football and saying, dude, this is just crazy, man. Oregon playing Portland State, dude. Portland State, that is crazy. So hats off to Oregon, dude. What a murder. What a slaughter. And then we got Ohio State, like I said, beating IU. Really in a close game, 23-3. And I'm looking at Ohio State right now and thinking, man, their quarterback, Kyle McCord, is not that good. threw a pick, 239 yards passing. It wasn't enough. I'm looking at Ohio State this year and thinking, wow, they fell off. Like, I don't even know if Ohio State is going to win the Big Ten title this year. That's how, if anyone's going to win the Big Ten title this year, it's going to be the sneaky Penn State. They have a solid defense. They have a good quarterback. And I think Penn State is definitely well coached. Had the same coach for almost a decade now. So I'm looking at Penn State and thinking, dude, they could be the Big Ten champions this year. They really can. I just think Ohio State right now, playing at IU and winning only by 20, though. Ohio State, they're a top 5 team in the country, dude. They should be blowing IU out of the water. It should be 49-3, like straight up. But I guess a good win by Ohio State. And then we got Washington beating Boise State, 56-19. Michael Penix Jr. 450 yards passing with 5 touchdowns from IU. The transfer. So shout out to Michael Penix Jr. Shout out to Washington getting a big win. That's what they do. And then we got Texas beating Rice. Like I said, they didn't always play him, I guess, but Rice, come on. 37-10. It was a slaughter. It really was. Then we had Fresno State beating Purdue at Purdue. And I'm looking at Purdue, and I'm looking at that first-year head coach, and I'm thinking there was a lot of play calls that I didn't agree with when Purdue was playing. It was just like they kept trying to run it up the middle, and that was not working. There was a 4th and 2 on the goal line, and they ran that play right up the middle, and that play was not working all game. I just don't understand it. And then the quarterback, 4th and 2 with the game on the line, down 3, down 4, whatever it was. He threw a quick slant, and he just disguised it the whole time. The quarterback immediately turned to the left and just focused right in on where he was going to throw it. It was like, dude, you couldn't disguise it any worse, dude. I'm looking at Purdue and thinking, well, it's going to be a long season for Purdue this year. Hats off to, Fresno State for getting the dub. And then we got Wisconsin beating Buffalo 38-17. What a time. I mean, like I said, these are cupcake teams here. Like, I don't understand. Buffalo, I understand they're in the MAC, but all that. But come on. Wisconsin's the Big Ten. Hopefully they're playing against more SEC teams. And then we got Georgia beating UT Martin. Wow, UT Martin, who are they? Who are they? Never heard of them. 48-7. Back-to-back champion for Georgia Bulldogs. Have high expectations. Carson Beck, 1 touchdown, 294 yards passing. Brock Bowers, their star tight end, 5 receptions, 77 yards. Georgia, I'm telling you what, this year, obviously, they always have talent week in and week out. But the three-peat this year is going to be tough for Georgia. After losing Stetson Bennett and a lot of their players that went to the NFL, definitely in the draft this year, they're gone. So I just think for Georgia, it's kind of more of a rebuilding year. I don't see Georgia three-peating this year. I really don't. I can see Georgia getting in maybe off a loss. But overall, I do not see Georgia Bulldogs three-peating just yet. Even though it's the first game of the season, we have a lot more to go. A lot of stuff could go right and wrong for any team. But I just think for Georgia to three-peat this year, it's going to be a long shot. It really is. Even though Kirby Smart's a great coach. So if Kirby Smart could do it, that Georgia Bulldogs team could definitely do it. But I just think it's a long shot right now to three-peat. Then we got Kansas State beating SE Missouri. SE Missouri, what are they, like a JUCO team? 45-0. Will Howard, he balled out. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 297 yards passing. R.J. Garcia II, 119 yards receiving and a touchdown for Kansas State. It was all Kansas State. But like I said, they're playing against what? A D2 school, a JUCO. Never heard of them. So, I guess a good win for Kansas State. And then we got Texas A&M killing New Mexico, 52-10. It was all Texas A&M, and when I think of Texas A&M, I think of Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, right? Shout out to Johnny Manziel. I wish he was still in the NFL. I wish he would have panned out. I wish he would have took it serious, and all that. But Texas A&M, like I said, it's the first game. It's New Mexico. Not that big of a deal. It is what it is. Evan Stewart, 115 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. What a time. But what an upset alert from Wyoming. Wyoming beating Texas Tech in double overtime. What a time. And it looked like Texas Tech just got really fatigued in the fourth quarter, and they were just like, I don't want to push through it. I don't want to go the extra mile, and Wyoming was willing to do that, and they did that. So the underdogs won. Shout out to Wyoming getting the job done. The underdogs are on top. And then we got Bama beating MTSU. Like, come on, dude. Middle Tennessee State University. I believe that's what the team was named. Jalen Milrose, 5 touchdowns for that starting quarterback for Bama. I'm telling you what, Bama every single year. They always have good running backs and good receivers and good quarterbacks. That's what you can guarantee for Coach Nick Saban. What a Hall of Famer coach he is, one of the best to ever do it. I mean, every single year he has great running backs, quarterbacks, receivers, safeties, defensive backs. He just has the best. You know, and that's what everybody in the country, the top high school players in the country, they want to go play for Bama. They really do. They want to go play for Nick Saban. Coach Nick Saban. I mean, what a time, man. It really is. So, you know, congrats to Bama, even though that's a cupcake team. I want to see Bama obviously going to play LSU later this year. I want to see some big games for Bama this year, and I expect that. And what do I expect for Bama this year? Obviously to win out and make it to the championship. I mean, that's every single year, right? Even though they lost 2 games last year and close ones, definitely against Tennessee. I think it was at the end of regulation where they lost. Might have been overtime. I think at the end where they lost by a field goal. But I'm looking at Bama and thinking they could easily win out, or they could lose one game and still make the playoffs. So never count out Alabama and Coach Nick Saban. They're just never out. They're the top dogs still. They have so many championships since Coach Nick Saban took over. So shout out to Bama. And then we got Penn State beating West Virginia. Drew Allar, 3 touchdowns, 325 yards passing. This kid is a gamer. He really is. And then we got Lambert Smith, that slot receiver, 123 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns for Penn State. Like I said, I think Penn State is one of those teams in the Big Ten that could really step their game up and win the Big Ten championship this year. And if Penn State wins the Big Ten championship this year, Penn State will get it a seed into the college football playoff this year. They'll probably be a 3 or 4 seed. But if Penn State gets in, they will get in, dude, and they win out in the Big Ten. They could definitely get in. They got to beat Ohio State, obviously Michigan, those type of teams. But Penn State is definitely my X-Factor team in the Big Ten. I can't wait for that. Then we got North Carolina beating South Carolina 31-17. South Carolina's quarterback, Spencer Rattler, 353 yards passing. You know, he's one of those guys that came from Oklahoma. Drake May, he had 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 269 yards passing. You know, and it was all North Carolina. Like I said, North Carolina, ACC, that's where I believe Notre Dame should go. But what a week 1 for college football. Even though there was a lot of cupcake games here where it's just like, why do they play the games? But like I said, the talk of the week was definitely Coach Primetime in Colorado. Dude, I'm telling you, dude, Colorado is a team to be reckoned with. I mean, it's crazy what one guy, Coach Primetime, Deion Sanders, one of the best cornerbacks to ever do it in the NFL, played in the major leagues, dude, was a cross athlete, was a freak, dude. That's why they called him Primetime, dude. He's Primetime, and I'm telling you, he's going to turn this program around. And it really would surprise me if they do win out. If Colorado wins out with Coach Primetime, they definitely should make the college football playoff and play against Bama or somebody. I cannot wait. They have the talent. And his son, the quarterback, Sanders, for them, dude. It's crazy, man. He just balled out over 500 yards. So shout out to Colorado and Coach Deion Sanders. Shout out to my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Their true test will come in a couple of weeks. But it's college football. It's the Clown with Cab show. Let's go!